Coming up, a celebration of books. The American Indian Library Association shares the winners of its literature awards. Q Stevens and his Remembrance Run, and ICT's new Chief Operating Officer. I am Aaliyah Chavez. Join us for those interviews, plus headlines from the ICT Newscast.
The Walter Cronkite School of Journalism and Mass Communication at Arizona State University is honored to be a supporter of Indian Country Today. ASU offers the only online undergraduate digital media literacy degree, teaching students how to recognize and combat inaccuracies on all platforms. They are using cutting-edge tools and tactics to separate fact from fiction in a digital world overloaded with misinformation. Learn more at cronkite.asu.edu.
This is the ICT Newscast with Aaliyah Chavez.
Thank you for joining the ICT Newscast. The landmark U.S. Supreme Court ruling McGirt v. Oklahoma will go back to court for reconsideration. On Friday, the justices agreed to hear the case brought by the state of Oklahoma on whether to limit its recent decision about Indian land. The 2020 ruling upheld that most of eastern Oklahoma's tribes' reservations have not been disestablished. That limits the state's authority to prosecute crimes committed in that area. Attorneys for the state argued the ruling has produced chaos because federal authorities are overwhelmed and can't prosecute certain crimes. The principal chief of the Cherokee Nation says his tribe is celebrating because the justices refused to overturn the McGirt decision, which the state had also requested.
Well, it is a great victory for Indian country. It's certainly a great victory for the Cherokee Nation and the other tribes directly impacted by the decision. Because let's remember what the McGirt decision was about. It's about whether the United States has to keep its promise to Indian tribes, or whether the imposition of the state of Oklahoma and the other actions that Congress took at the turn of the 20th century was enough to break that promise. The Supreme Court was clear in July 2020 that the promise needed to be kept, and that's important for Indian country. It's really important for the United States, because don't we all want to live in a country that ought to be true to its word? And that's really important. The governor of the state of Oklahoma begged the Supreme Court to reconsider that. I mean, can you imagine going into the Supreme Court asking them to say it's okay to break that promise? Well, the Supreme Court today said we're not even going to consider that.
In April, the Supreme Court will hear this case. U.S. lawmakers are directing a new bill that will support Native veterans. Earlier this month, 4 members of Congress introduced legislation in the House aimed at giving the Native American Indian Veterans Organization a congressional charter. Congressional charters have been given for groups like Polish Americans, Italian Americans, and Black veterans groups, but never for a Native veterans organization. Don Lauder is from the Crow Creek Sioux tribe and serves as national commander of the group. He said in a statement, "It is very important to pass this bill for American Indians. It would allow us to testify to Congress on the unique needs of our Native veterans. It doesn't ask for any money. It only asks that Congress recognize the sacrifices of generations of American Indians who have answered the nation's call and fought in every war since the American Revolution." Native people serve in the armed forces at 5 times the national average. Chickasaw Representative Tom Cole and Ho-Chunk Representative Sharice Davids are among the legislators who are sponsoring this bill. A similar bill was introduced in the Senate last year. Last week, a Hiachid Adham woman was found not guilty on federal misdemeanor charges. In September 2020, Amber Ortega was protesting the construction of the border wall on her ancestral homelands when she was arrested. Now her acquittal comes after a judge reversed their previous ruling that Ortega could not use the Religious Freedom Restoration Act as her defense. After her lawyer asked the court to reconsider the ruling, the judge decided the prosecution imposed a substantial burden on her exercise of religion. Ortega spoke with ICT about what the area means to her nation.
There's a hurt, there's an underlying generational hurt that we are dealing with, because we're well aware that our sites exist and our culture exists, our language, our songs, our prayers, our ceremonies, where and what locations mean something to us.
Speaking with supporters outside of the federal courthouse in Tucson, Arizona, Ortega says the ruling is a victory for her people. And you can read more on this story by going to our website at IndianCountryToday.com. Just search for the headline, Hiachid Adlam Woman Acquitted in Border Wall Protest. The Seattle Kraken is using its platform to elevate Native voices. Last month, the National Hockey League's newest team took to the ice wearing jerseys inspired by traditional Karuk basketry. Karuk citizen Fox Spears designed the jersey. He talks about why he helped with this project.
I think this project for me means it's a great way to give more visibility to Native people and Native cultures. I wanted it to feel very vibrant and fun.
With the input of Indigenous leaders and consultants, the team also wrote a land acknowledgement to recognize the Coast Salish peoples. The franchise is also hosting events for Indigenous youth to learn the fundamentals of the sport. And those are the headlines for the ICT Newscast. Coming up, an athlete is running for a purpose and our new ICT team member. But first, who will take home the prizes for the best Native children's books in the country? We find out next. Every other year, the American Indian Library Association presents its Youth Literature Awards. These awards represent the very best writings and illustrations by and about Native people. The awards include Best Picture Book, Best Middle Grade Book, and Best Young Adult Book. We're joined today by Naomi Bishop and Ann Heidemann, who will share more. Naomi, let's jump right in. Who is the winner of the 2022 Best Picture Book?
The 2022 Best Picture book is Horizon by Daniel W. Van Ander. He's Dene, and it's illustrated by Corey Begay, also Dene, and published by South of Sunrise Creative.
And Anne, tell us who the winner is of the Best Middle Grade Book.
So the 2022 American Indian Youth Literature Award for winner for Best Middle Grade Book is Healer of the Water Monster, written by Brian Young, Dene, cover art by Shanto Begay, Dene, and published by Heartdrum, an imprint of HarperCollins Publishers.
And Naomi, tell us about the Best Young Adult Book.
The Best Young Adult Book winner is Apple Skin to the Core, written by Eric Gansworth, Onagonda, published by Levine Cordero.
And Naomi, I'd love to learn more about the process of choosing these winners. Tell us about how you actually choose these books and these authors and the illustrators.
Yeah, so every 2 years, we invite publishers across the United States and Canada to send us books by Native and Indigenous authors and illustrators. We receive copies of our books for all of our committee, which are all librarians here in the United States. And we read and review the books. And then closer to like last fall, we met and we discussed the winners, select and choose our winners, but also our honorees. And so each year we do honor books for those books that we also really enjoyed, but we can only have one winner. And so that's our process.
And Anne, tell us about this year's pool of applicants in particular.
So we had a lot of applicants this year. It was amazing. I think we had 100 or maybe a couple more than 100 submissions for the 2022 award cycle. And our previous award cycle in 2020 had 50 submissions. So the publications doubled from the last cycle, which is amazing.
I could imagine. And Naomi, I'd actually love to hear a little bit more about that in terms of the time and the process that it takes. I mean, you all read all of these books, right?
Yes, we do. And so we actually start every 2 years. So we're just finishing our cycle now. But as soon as summer comes, we will invite publishers to then start sending us any books. We do books published within the last 3 years so that we don't miss any books. And these include small press publishers, self-publishing, but also large big name publishers. We have some of our winners that are from HarperCollins or Penguin. We really are encouraging the publishers to put out Native authors and Native illustrators and books that our kids and our families will enjoy. And so that's like our whole goal, is to just put out books or read the books and put them on our shelves and make sure that libraries are supporting Native authors and Native illustrators, because we know we have so many amazing stories to tell and people to draw and do graphic art and graphic novels. And so it's really great to see those published and out, sharing our stories with the world.
Naomi, why do you think that it's important to celebrate quality books about Native children for Native children?
Yeah, so historically, many books in children's publishing were stereotypical. They did not include any Native authors or Native illustrators. Less than 1% of children's books are published by Native authors and illustrators in the United States. And our award encourages more publishing of stories by Native Americans. There is statistics from the Children's Book Center at the University of Wisconsin-Madison, and those statistics are always growing. And we think it's also because of our awards and the recognition that has now lifted to be included in the American Library Association's Youth Media Awards. And so along with those big announcements of the Caldecott and the Newbery and the Prince, we are also lifting up Native authors and Native illustrators.
And I'd love to ask you the same question, because I know that you actually work in a tribal library. As a librarian, why is it important that Native children have quality books that they can read?
Well, in the words of Dr. Radine Sims Bishops, you need mirrors and windows in books. So children can not only experience other lives or other experiences through the reading that they do, but they can see themselves reflected. So when I get to share books with kids in the library and see that they identify with the characters or the illustrations in a book, it is magical.
I can imagine. And now I understand that these books will actually get a special seal on them. Is that right, Anne?
Yes, it is. Absolutely. And it is very exciting to see in Naomi's background, you can kind of see there, the medals are on the book covers.
Yeah, I'm very excited about that. Naomi, while we have you here, I'd actually love to hear about what your personal favorites were from this year's submissions.
I have a lot of favorites, but especially Horizon. You can see that behind me. I'm going to give it away. It's actually a wordless picture book. So it's a beautiful story and just pictures. And I also love Learning My Rights with Mouse Woman, which is a book for toddlers and babies to learn their rights as children.
And Anne, what about you?
Well, it's also very hard for me to pick a favorite, but I think I would go with Firekeeper's Daughter by Angeline Bowley. It's a community that's just north of where I live, and it's very hits close to home and is just a great book.
Great. Well, Anne and Naomi, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And we'll be right back. Last year, runner Koo Stevens retraced his great-grandfather's steps. In 1913, Koo's great-grandfather escaped from the Stewart Indian boarding school, running 50 miles home to the Yarrington Paiute tribal nation. After reenacting this escape, Koo completed a 2-day run, spurring media attention from news outlets all over the country. And he joins us now to talk about what's in store for the future. Hi, Koo. Thank you for being here.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, I'm glad to be here.
So tell us, how did this journey start for you?
It was really just the thought. Everything starts with a simple basic thought, and that was my dad's. He had always wanted to, start from Carson and go to Yarrington to, really understand what his grandfather had to go through, which is my great grandfather. And this summer we were kind of like, we heard the news of what happened in Canada. And all those dead kids that were found at the boarding school over there, and that's when the thought kind of came to reality, and we decided, okay, let's do this. And then from there, everything just kind of really grew really fast. You know, there's other people who wanted to donate, they wanted to do it. And that's how it got all started.
50 miles is a really long way to run. Had you ever run that far before?
Um, it was all split up into sections. I mean, it was 5 miles at a time over 2 days. So it wasn't overwhelming. Um, but covering that much ground in 2 days all at once or over a course of maybe a week, it's still so many miles. But it was nice. It was I didn't really, feel too much fatigue. I was really just locked in and I was focused on my, my people and what I'm doing this for and why I was running more than the pain and fatigue of it all.
That's a great segue into my next question, which I think in Indian country, running is medicine, and we hear that so often in our communities. So, as you were running, I guess what kinds of thoughts and feelings were going through your head?
Oh, so many. When I first crested the hill, that's like pretty much an eye view from right here. I saw the valley, and we had run 47 miles by that point, and it was just such a relief to finally be here and see this place, and see all the tents that were set up at the park and all the people that were waiting. As I was running down this road right here, right behind me, um, just overwhelming, just goosebumps of just a feeling of pride and just fulfillment, really.
Do you think that your great grandfather would have been proud of the journey that you took?
Yeah, I mean, I feel like anybody's great grandfather would have been proud because their stories aren't told. They're not the things that are prioritized in public education history classes and just basic knowledge. I tell people that I did this run, this remembrance run, to remember the people who lost their lives at boarding schools and those who escaped and those who didn't. And they're like, well, what was so bad about boarding schools? And I'm like, well, that's where the conversation starts. It's like first discovering what had happened so long ago, but it really wasn't even that far ago if you think about it. So yeah, just lots of emotions and really just feel very fulfilled to to do that.
As I mentioned earlier, this remembrance run spurred the attention of a lot of media outlets. And so I'm curious, was that something that surprised you, or what was your reaction from that?
Yeah, I mean, we pretty much it was just they came together so fast. Really, my mom was just the leader of everything, organizing it, and then media outlets started hitting us up, and then the New York Times out of nowhere, and I know I didn't expect it. It was like just a big blindside. It was just just trying to do something good for the community, and it turned into such a big thing, and it's beautiful how people show that they care. So.
So big now that someone's actually making a documentary about you.
Yeah, good friends now. Very good family friends. Paige and her camera crew, Zach and Shy, they're all very good people. They're creating a documentary called Remaining Native. It should be out in the late coming of this year. I hope. I think. I don't know. I could be totally off on that, but I'm pretty sure that's what they said. And yeah, it covers the whole trip of the journey of the Remembrance Run and the next one that we're going to be holding as well, I believe.
I'd actually like to ask you about your running career. I know that it's something that you want to do after you graduate from high school. Tell us what some of your plans are.
I definitely want to run for college. Collegiate career has always been in my mind, and then furthermore would be the Olympics. And that first step would be recruited by Oregon or Colorado. Those are my two priority schools right now, and I am in contact with them. And it seems like things are going pretty well. And this next track season should really propel that momentum that has been gained from the cross country and from the Remembrance Run.
And when you run in college, is this message going to be something that you continue pushing forward as well?
100%. That's why I feel like I'm such a valuable runner to have on a college team, is because I'm not just a pair of legs. I'm also my voice, my words, and my wisdom that I feel like I gathered at such a young age. That is kind of strange, but I credit a lot of that to my dad and my elders. And yeah,
Well, Ku, thank you so much.
yeah, of course, really.
When we come back, we meet the new Chief Operating Officer of Indige Public Media. Every organization takes an entire team to make it run. That's the case at Indian Country today, and now we're adding a new team member. Earlier this month, ICT's parent company, Indige Public Media, announced Mike Kellogg was hired as Chief Operating Officer. He joins us now to tell us about himself and his goals for our organization. Mike, welcome to our newscast.
Thank you very much, Leah. It's wonderful to be here, and it's humbling to be a part of a great team and organization.
So, for our viewers who are meeting you for the very first time, tell us about yourself and where you come from.
Well, I am Dene. My clan is my clan is Sinjik. I am also born for Biligana. So my maternal grandfather is Kea'ani, with my paternal grandfather being Biligana. My kids are Nakaidene for Sinjikine. I went to Window Rock High School, Fort Defiance, Arizona. My home chapter on the Navajo Reservation is Crystal. Just love it up there. Grew up there. Grew with baling hay, fixing ditches, fences. So it was a great life. But I pursued a career in journalism, and I love every bit of it. So thank you for asking.
Yeah, I think for our viewers, everyone's always wondering, how are we related to so and so? And Indian Country is so small that it always seems that we're just one relation away from someone else. I actually want to ask you about the reaction, what the reaction has been since you've been named the COO of Indige Public Media.
Well, I tell you, the team here has been very welcoming. They're busy, they're committed to a mission, but I've been very welcomed here by everyone. It's just been wonderful to be, like I said, able to join an organization like Indian Country Today and Indige Media. And the mission we have is just wonderful. So the staff has been very welcoming, very supportive in the first week, because you still have to ask where the drinking fountain is or where do you get the ice. So they've been very helpful. They've been very welcoming.
That's so wonderful to hear. So tell us, what does a COO actually do?
Well, in another career when I was in print, it's really takes care of the business operations for the organization, which allows the newsroom to complete its mission, to find, to support what's happening in the news world. And our role on the business side, which is COO, is a part of, it's part of finance, it's part of sales, it's a part of business operations. And we just make sure, our job is to make sure we take advantage of those opportunities that make themselves available to support our mission of, bringing forth Native issues, Native, happenings, and just the news that happens during the day. And it's our job to support that mission. And we have a wonderful team here. We have people that are dedicated, people who are talented, and like I said, a COO sort of brings it all together. And the success of anybody is built on its team members. And it's been very good. We've grown substantially in the past year. So it is our job is to stay out of the way of news, but support it, that we can take advantage of those opportunities that make themselves available.
And looking to the future, what are some of the goals that you have in this position?
Well, in any operation, it's how you manage expenses and how you grow your revenue. That's it for everybody. And so that's what, when you break it down to its simplest part, that's what we want to do. And that way it gives where the newsroom and the editorial side, the broadcast side, they're confident that we'll be able to do a lot more of the work that's needed, because Native issues are becoming mainstream issues. Native people grew up respecting the earth. We were all taught to only use what you need, and So you have climate issues, you have environment impact, the changes to that. You have missing and murdered Indian women that needs to be told, that story needs to be told. And, take, for instance, in Arizona, Native vote turned to blue. And that's why, they changed the voting districts. And so, mainstream is starting to feel the wisdom of Native ways. And I think that's very fortunate for the country, because what we've been taught and how we live will make the country better.
Well, Mike, we so look forward to your leadership, and welcome to the team again.
Well, thank you very much. I'm humbled to be part of this, a really great and magnificent team. Thank you.
And that's a slice of our Indigenous world. Thank you for watching. For all the latest news and updates, visit us at IndianCountryToday.com. I am Aaliyah Chavez.
Sometimes you got to take a stand just because you know you can. Oh, you got to run, you got to run.